You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Wow, I missed the ending on there. Wow, that's a rare one. Hey, folks, in a world gone mad, one man can save humanity. And it's not me. I'm just your host, Chris Voss. But thanks for having me on the show. We certainly appreciate it. Guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss. All of our big LinkedIn groups and all that stuff we do on LinkedIn. The big LinkedIn newsletter, the 130,000 group. Make sure you get involved in all that crazy stuff. And we're going to be at this interesting thing they do every year in Vegas called CES show, the Consumer Electronics Show, and 2023. And, weirdly, this guy showed up on our show today. His name is Gary Shapiro, and he's going to be talking to us about CES. But let me tell you a little bit more about him. Gary Shapiro is an acclaimed author, lobbyist, and president and CEO of the CTA, or what is otherwise known as the Consumer Technology Association. It represents over I have 1,500 here on the wiki page. There might be more consumer technology companies, and produces the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, as it's known, in Las Vegas, and will be coming up in January of this year, or next year, actually. We did that; they did it this year, but we'll move on. Shapiro is the author of the best-selling books Ninja Future: Secrets to Success in the New World of Innovation, Ninja Innovation: The 10 Killer Strategies in the World's Most Successful Businesses, and The Comeback: How Innovation Will Restore the American Dream. And he's been seen all over the world, and he's known as an influencer on LinkedIn, according to his wiki page. Welcome to the show, Gary. How are you?
Terrific, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. I should add it's a pleasure to be your friend as well, my friend. And good to see you.
You've been a terrific voice of support, advice, enthusiasm, and collegiality, and I love what you do.
There you go. Well, we love what you do, too. If it wasn't for you, I don't know, we wouldn't have anything to do in January. We just sit around and go, hey, whatever. So give us your plugs, wherever your whatever you want people to go check out what you guys are doing there.
Well, CES is the world's largest innovation event. We're expecting our goal is 100,000 people. We have 2,500 exhibitors. The footprint is 50% larger than 2022. And
Wow.
It's showing next generation innovation that will solve some of the global challenges in the world. And it's the coolest, funnest, most exciting event. I'm in this job because I love it so much. Because the CES to me is like, it goes back thousands of years to the marketplaces of yore, where you go to the village and see the vendors having their competing fruits and vegetables and wares. This is about technology, and it's a global event. 1 out of 3 of our people are from outside the United States that come. Mm-hmm. So it's truly global. Companies approach it that way. It's multicultural in many different ways by every definition. And it allows different industries to get together in one venue and have the synergies and serendipity necessary to move our world forward.
There you go. 2,400 plus exhibitors, 166 countries, territories, or regions represented, 188 top tier media registered. The Chris Voss Show hopefully is in that number. This is going to be exciting. And you guys are coming back from kind of a couple down years because of that COVID thing that was annoying everyone, I hear.
Well, 2020 was a great event. 2021, we were pure digital. We were out of Redmond, Washington, Microsoft's headquarters. 2022, last January, we were in Las Vegas at CES, but that was at the Omicron spiking 1 million cases a day. And
it's crazy.
It certainly had an impact. But those that did show up were really, really happy they did, especially from around the world, because a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, rely upon this one event to make their year or make or break their year. And they count on meeting people, getting partners, customers, investors, media, big companies investing. And that's what the show is. It's getting people together to move forward. Now, this year, we're actually doing something different. Often reporters ask me, what's the theme of the show? And other than innovation, I never had a good answer. Now it's not only innovation, it's about sustainability, but it's also about, we have aligned ourselves with the United Nations. They have a focus with another group, the World Academy of Science and Technology, focused on these rights or securities that every human should have. The right to healthcare, the right to clean air and clean water, the right to food and not be hungry, the right to personal security, the right to political and community involvement. These are rights that correspond with technologies that are at CES. And that's made all the difference. And you'll hear a lot of our speakers talking about them. A lot of exhibitors will be showing what they're doing. We've got innovations programs. We have workshops. And the point here is that in a time of uncertainty for the world, we should know what direction we're going in. And although maybe not every country will agree, I think most people would agree they'd like to see these fundamental human rights for everybody.
Definitely. I mean, and technology is the leader in everything nowadays. So, and technically technology is supposed to make our lives better and make a purpose and make our things better. So having a purpose of, making the world a better place on top of the technology that it brings us is a good way. Unless I'm hitting someone over the head with my iPhone, then that's technology not used in a bad way. Judge says I can't do that anymore. But I'll get the ankle bracelet off next week. But comedy aside,
you make an excellent point. You may not realize you just made an excellent point, but having read something this weekend by an Axios columnist, it says maybe, for a lot of new technology like cyber money and cyber currency or TikTok or some of the things that Elon Musk is doing, maybe we should just ban them. And I'm like, no, you don't ban stuff. That's not what we do in this country. We almost never ban anything that's not defense related. It's serious national security issues. What we do ban is very few products, and I can only come up with a few. One is like products that turn your red light green. That's reserved for police and ambulances. Products that allow you to steal from your cable company, black boxes. Phone scanners, so you listen to private conversations. And other than that, we might have some guidelines or rules or things like that, but we managed to say, hey, this is an area of innovation. You don't go to government and ask for permission. You do stuff. But all the laws that apply to everything else apply to what you do. It's the behavior that should be illegal. Fraud, you're hurting people. From the advent of fire to the hammer, to the axe, to the printing press, to the car and the airplane, and even things like anesthesia or other things like the VCR or HD TV or anything. It's the behavior. The internet, another great example. Don't make the internet illegal, as some people try to do. You make the behavior illegal. Child porn is child porn and should be illegal no matter how you do it. That kind of thing. And that's the guideline that we'd like to see.
Definitely. I mean, it seems like there's some humans that are up to some bad stuff every now and then. They should just be taken care of, which usually we have laws for that. So let me ask you this. What's most exciting for you? What are you looking forward to the most? I mean, tell us, don't worry about breaking anybody's feelings if there's some.
No, we have a lot of cool new things at this CES 2023. We have a whole focus on some unexpected technology, which may be game changing. We have a whole area on marine technology, showcasing some cool things in the electric boats using hydrofoil technology, things like that, which is really cool. We have an opening keynote from John Deere Agriculture. That ties into the food for everybody theme. They have tractors they're building that use the internet and artificial intelligence and cool algorithms, and they can go 24 hours a day and make sure the world is fed. We have a whole area called C-Space, which is focused on marketing and technology, new platforms, and chief marketing officers from all sorts of companies around the world go. And obviously, smart home is still huge and big, AR, VR. We have a whole thing on Web 3.0, including the metaverse. We have some really, really cool areas of the show, which are just really important. And of course, there's my favorite, which gives me just a great feeling, is our startup area, where we'll have some 1,000 different startups from around the world, each, giving their 4 days of opportunity to meet the partners, investors, retailers, suppliers, manufacturers, important media like you, who just, notice them, give them some input, some publicity, some advice, that first investment, that first customer, that makes all the difference. And it's just like why we exist, in a sense. Is innovation could come from anywhere in the world. It can come from a big company or a small company. We're an American trade association, but we produce a global event. Our members are American. but we recognize that this is a global thing to move us forward in so many different ways.
There you go. What's the basement called again? Where all the startups are at? My brain's going.
It's in the Venetian Venetian at the bottom floor, and it's you go into the Venetian, which used to be called the Sands. Now it's all called the Venetian, and you go in there and you go to the left of that really big entrance, and you just hang out at Eureka Park.
Eureka Park. That's what I was trying to remember.
An amazing
Eureka.
Idea. Let's put all the small startups together, and it'll be something. And what we see there is we see all these different countries: France, Netherlands, Israel, Italy, a new one from our first African one, the Congo.
Oh, wow.
We even have a Ukrainian delegation of startup exhibitors there. We hope everyone will support them because they need our support. And give them a look over. So we have a ton of different ones that I haven't mentioned even half of them, but there's many different country pavilions there as well.
There you go. Yeah, Eureka Park. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. I know that by heart. And some of the best, coolest, innovative stuff is down there. It's such a great place because a lot of small startups can't afford to do the big show, be on the main platforms. They can't afford the $1 million big things like Samsung does or whatever. And so it's a great place for them. Congratulations! A year ago, you won the French Legion Honor Award, and I remember seeing you post about it. And then you were recently at the White House talking with with Macron when he visited the White House.
President Macron, when he was a minister. We got to know him in Paris, actually, and he asked about how French could become more entrepreneurial and innovative. And we have an event in Paris every year. And we gave him some good input and invited him to see us in Las Vegas. And he came as a minister, and he thought it was the best thing in the world. And he came back the next year with several hundred French exhibitors, most of them in Eureka Park. And France has continued that tradition. Meanwhile, he ran for president and created a new party and won. And last week, Thursday, when he was in the United States in Washington, D.C. for a visit, my wife and I were fortunate enough to be able to spend a little time with him for lunch and meet his wife and talk to him. And Vice President Kamala Harris was there, as well as the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. But it's some other really cool people like Henry Kissinger, who we spent some time with.
Oh, Henry was there. Wow.
99 years old and sharp as a whip still and mobile, as well as everyone from the top person in NATO, the supreme commandant of the NATO forces, to famous senators and congressmen and head of airlines and FedEx, and it was just an amazing collection of people. Even Spike Lee, who I had the good fortune to introduce to the head of NATO. So they were talking together, as well as just introducing Henry Kissinger to some people, and introducing the head of NASA was there, and I enjoyed introducing him to the head of United Airlines as well as the head of FedEx. So it was a fun group to be around, and I felt like I was cool for the first time in my life.
Oh, come on. You've been in a lot of great rooms, and that'd be cool.
But
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
We tried to get Henry Kissinger on for his latest book. He's got 1 million books. He had one, I think, last year or the year before. We tried desperately to get him on. They're like, dude, he's Henry Kissinger. He doesn't need you. And so we're like, okay. So we got some love from Spain. Looks like live here. Maria, thanks. Good night. It was very interesting to hear your speech on the topic. Thanks for such a useful info from Spain. So there we go. We got some Spain in there. So companies that want to maybe work with CTA, how can they sign up, or how can they get to know you better? What standards do they need to meet?
Was Maria talking about your speech or my speech?
She might have been talking. She didn't really specify. She said, "Good night. It was very interesting to hear your speech on the topic." So
okay.
I'm not. Did you do a speech or did I do a speech?
We had a global press event last week where we had several hundred press. And we talked about some of the things going on at CES because there's a lot going on there, and it's an opportunity to reach. We have several thousand press coming to the event that are signed up, and that's an important part of what we do. Is the press is our megaphone to the world for all these companies. And you mentioned Eureka Park. I do want to say that we're dedicated to the small companies. So what we do is we subsidize the participation of these true startups. They do have to graduate after a couple of years, but we basically, for a very small fee, they get complete setup. They just have to bring themselves and their product and say something saying what they're doing, and then they get that exposure to literally thousands of show attendees, which is so important for them to start, because we're a culture and a country that encourages innovation, that encourages people with good ideas to pursue them. And we're also dedicated to the free market, which makes such a difference. And what's more free market than a trade show?
There you go. The best thing about a free market is that it inspires the human spirit and the human drive.
I believe
and that's to me, that's the genesis of real creativity and genius and making the world, of course, what CES is honoring this year, a better place, and more human rights and humanity, all that good stuff. So that's what technology.
When I read Beacons of Leadership, your book, I was so struck by your varied experience as an entrepreneur, doing different things, starting different businesses, going out and living the American dream in a way where now you have this, megaphone to the world through this show and through your writings. And I follow you on Facebook and appreciate just the raw honesty you give. You're willing to expose yourself, your fears, your concerns, even your weight, and talk about real life issues that a lot of people have. They're just not capable of talking about. But to see someone who's doing it real, I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. And I really appreciate you reading the book. You're the only one. So there you go.
I've given it to a whole number of people. It's a great book.
Man. Thank you, man. I certainly appreciate it. It's all about making a difference in this world. And, we're only here for a short period of time. And the more we can make a difference. You've been doing this for so many years. How many years have you been with CTA now?
It's a long, I was a student in Washington, D.C., working for a firm that was a consultant to the association in 1978. And I started working, they were a client, and then I was hired full-time when I graduated from the firm and worked there, and it was almost full-time as an outside consultant. So my predecessor, Jack Wayman, who started CES in 1967, realized he could save a ton of money by paying me directly rather than through the consulting company. And I was hired full-time in 1981. In 1991, I was put in charge. So it's been a 9 and 22, 31 years in charge of the whole thing, which is kind of nice.
That is awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for this year because, 2020 was an awesome year. And like within 2 months after that, COVID's like, here we are. And then, we had the virtual 21, and then 22 was kind of a halvesies. And so this year, I feel like we're finally returning to normal. It's the big power back, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm knocking wood here because, one thing, COVID's taught us a lot. One is, nothing is really certain. You got to appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
And second is, once in 1,000-year, 100-year things actually do happen, and human resiliency is important. It's not, resiliency has become my favorite word even before COVID. I actually wrote about it in my last book. I had a chapter on it. But resiliency is about adaptation quickly. It goes to what the famous geneticist said: it's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, it's those who adopt the quickest. And so we've tried to adapt in many different ways quickly. We called off the physical version of our first show 7 months before the show, and my colleagues thought we were crazy because, there could be a cure before then. We kind of knew there wouldn't be, and we wanted to give our customers an opportunity not to commit huge amounts of money to hotel rooms and exhibits and building exhibits. And we adapted in what we've done. We went purely digital. We went hybrid. Now we're still kind of hybrid. But we always have to make ourselves better and not take them for granted. And the other thing I think COVID has taught us is that we need each other as humans. Although I'm the paid cheerleader for the technology industry in the United States, I believe in human interaction. The 5 sense experience you get at a trade show, the joy of serendipity and discovery of things you didn't even know you didn't know, or products or technologies or opportunities. If anything has changed in the last 5 or 10 years, it's been the fact that different industries have to cooperate to produce things that make a difference in people's lives. And that's what's going on. A lot of what happens at CES are executives from top companies and small companies just trying to discover, meet each other, form relationships. And those relationships it can happen over the internet, but frankly, there's nothing like sharing a cup of coffee or a drink or a meal or talking to just somebody and discovering about who they are as people and figuring out whether you can trust them and whether or not you want to do business with them. Those are things that the computers haven't yet really figured out. And that's why getting together in one space, it's also very green and very efficient. The average person at CES has 29 meetings.
Wow.
It would take 3 months of traveling around the world to have those meetings. So you get together everyone in one place at one time. And I don't care whether it's a big business event or a small one, that we need those. I mean, one of the discussions I had with my friend in the airline industry was, what's going on? And what's going on is that people want to travel. They want to see each other. They want to form relationships. They want to do business. And that's what we're seeing come back as people are, I wouldn't say it's a post-COVID world, but, we're learning how to live with COVID.
Am I going to be able to shake hands with anybody this year?
That's up to you. If I were the god of control, I would ban handshaking personally.
Yeah, I saw that post.
It's a disease transmission mechanism. There is a lot of it. Even I noticed this in Washington, fist bumping and elbow bumping. But if someone wants, I can't even stop myself from shaking hands. I think it's better if you really like someone to give them a hug personally, but maybe not everyone. So
what about making out? Can I make out with anybody at CES?
That's a whole other subject, Chris. I'm not going to touch. Okay. What I will say we're doing is, in addition to some of the widening aisles, and we're really focusing on ventilation and touch. And, the ventilation is really improved remarkably in all the Las Vegas facilities, and we're opening doors as much as we can. But we're also trying to go to a more touchless environment so people don't have to touch door handles and spread disease, because we know that's one of the ways it happens, whether it's in conference rooms or in open convention center doors. I think we've probably taken the most ambitious step that any trade show has ever taken to go to that direct approach. My wife is a doctor and certainly has been helping guide our COVID policies on this from the beginning, but we also have 3 doctors on our board, as well as outside medical experts we use. And I think there's a strong consensus emerging in the medical community that we could spend a little more time on hygiene. And, it's about some good practices, whether it's hand sanitation, which of course we'll have around the show, but also about ventilation, things like that we just keep learning about. And 5, 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be a lot better and figure these things out. I mean, one of my petty annoyances is in the U.S., we've stopped building buildings that you can open windows for. And that's not helpful, honestly, especially in this COVID area. My wife, parents were doctors in Poland, and they have a very low infection rate there in surgery because they always keep their windows open. United States, not so. So it's, I'm big on ventilation. Open air is good.
Open air is good. The problem is those employees escape. You can't be having that now. Again, so hey, do you have to have how last year you had to have your card, your inoculation card for COVID? Do you have to have that this year? Or is that out?
That's a great question. No, you do not. We are recommending strongly that people be vaccinated, but at this point in medical history and time, the number of different type of vaccines globally, the ability when you get it matters. If you got a vaccine 2 years ago, maybe it's not the same power as one that was like 3 months ago. And the ability to keep track of that doesn't make sense. I think the trend is that people are making their own decisions on vaccines, nor are we requiring masking. We're suggesting that you respect people's masking decisions. If you want to wear a mask, you're more than welcome to. In terms of testing, we'll have tests available for COVID. That's something that people can or cannot do depending on how they're feeling. We'll have different health protocols that are there, but I think we've reached a stage, us and just about every other event now, where people are making their own decisions. And it's about, first of all, whether they go to Las Vegas in the first place and get on an airplane, which is, by the way, airplanes have like hyper safe environments in terms of their ventilation. It's hospital quality. That's just a fact. But whether or not you go out to a bar or a casino or a restaurant, what you do it, how you do it, those are decisions that each employer and individual will have to make on their own. And we recognize and want to respect the fact that for some people, they're just not ready and may never be ready for travel again. And that's why we have a digital edition of our show, which will be sent out to those that sign up. I think mid-December we go live with that, so you could start if you want to be digital only. But really, the point of the digital platform in part is for people to go to the show itself. And that way they could experience the show, stay in touch with exhibitors, see a lot of the conferences after the show. That's one of the things we learned the last 2 years, is that the digital platform is of the greatest benefit to those journalists and others who want to track down somebody or a conference session that they missed. And not every conference session, since we have so many of them, will be on that platform. Not every exhibitor chooses to be on the digital platform, but we expect a lot of both. And this is something which is going to evolve over time, not only for our event. I talk to my colleagues at other events, and it's, everyone has different experiences. I mean, the biggest transition we made, which was difficult, was producing a purely physical event to go to a purely digital event. The skill set for those things are like very different. But again, we adapted quickly. We were able to shift and pivot our staff, and it worked. But to be honest with you, it was not stress-free, to put it mildly. And I think every trade show organization has gone through this. I take solace with my colleagues, and we compare best practices and, where we think things are going.
Yeah, I'm just excited because it feels like getting back to normal. I love how you do the thing now where you can watch the CES show, parts that you missed for weeks on end, up to, 2 weeks or a month after?
Well, it's interesting. So great point. We experimented in 2021, and then we extended it to a month at 2022. Now we're extending it to 2 months, to the end of February.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Because people want to tell. I mean, it's a long tail, we discovered. And we have the content. The content is still pretty current. A lot of what people talk about. I mean, obviously over time, some of it gets dated, but I think that content, we're going to make it as searchable as possible, and we'll keep getting it better every year, maybe longer. We'll see. We're still trying to figure it out.
What'd be cool is if you could go into like a metaverse or some sort of thing where you could see the booth layouts and basically walk the floor. But I love it because there's so much I miss at CES. Like every year I go to CES and I'm going to see everything. And then my legs go, no, you're not.
There'll have to be 10 Chris Vosses to see everything.
There would be.
We're up to, I think, 2,500 exhibitors at this point, and growing every day. There's not the hours in a day to see everything.
Maybe I should just try and run through it all. Just don't even stop. Just try and run through every booth. And
I guess some smart person myself could tell you how many miles that would be, but it'd be a lot.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Jeff Sparrow says, looking forward to all that human interaction at CES this year. Chris Voss drinks and ketchup after the show. I'm not committing that in the show, Jeff. I'm not a fool. Jeff also thinks that we should get a booth for the Chris Voss Show, the CES Makeout booth, hosted by Chris Voss. I'm not sure that's going to get approved. So, but that's great for the comedy bit of the show. But it'll be wonderful to see you again, see the show, and be back to the usual. No one wants to make out booth with Chris Voss. It's going to be the most. There's going to be no money in that. It's like I could charge $1, and people will be just like, no, hard pass.
Chris, I think maybe a dunking booth.
A dunking booth?
Charity. Now we're talking,
There you go. And the long tail on the videos, man. I mean, we've actually had people watch the show and say, hey, can you introduce me the founders, because we want to invest in them. And we've hooked up investors with people that were startups. And so that's just where the real magic happens. Like you say, you just never can know where it goes. So I appreciate you spending some of your important time with us, Gary. And it was good to see you again. If we ever meet one of these days, I need to give you a big old hug, man.
Absolutely. We'll do that in Vegas. And Chris, I hope you have a happy and healthy holiday season. And Las Vegas better than anyone, but for your audience that hasn't registered, you can register on CES.tech. And if you're going to Las Vegas, prepare, plan, try to stay in one area of facility, because we have the big Venetian that used to be called the Sands, and we have C Space at 3 hotels, and we have the Las Vegas Convention Center in the new building. There's a lot, and if you plan out, use our bus system, do all these great things, because remember, buildings in Las Vegas are further than they appear.
And drink lots of water, because you get dehydrated there. You don't realize you're in a desert until it sneaks up on you. Absolutely. And lay off and don't drink hard on the first night. That's the one thing people do in Vegas. 20 years I've lived there. One thing they do is they blow it out on the first night. Don't do that. Pace yourself.
You're the man. You're good advice.
There you go. Well, Gary, thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it, and continued success and happy holidays, my friend, to you and your family.
Thanks, Chris.
And the CTA family over there. They're always so wonderful to deal with. And then hopefully we'll get you for the next book I'm working on. We're still cooking it. So there you go. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out CES show 2023. Hope to see you there. Let us know if you're going. Also, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, all those places we are on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.